Hi gaming guys, and welcome to episode 24 of Dirtmasters, the review series where we are evaluating the upsides and downsides of the real rally cars of Gran Turismo 6. So in this episode we're featuring what is certainly an iconic but also infamous rally car. It is of course the Ford RS200, the car which single-handedly brought the end to Group B rallying due to how dangerous it was. But how does it drive on the game? Is it leery? Is it undrivable? Or is it competitive? Well, let's go to the track and find out. Now, the RS200 is known for being an extremely quick rally car, so unsurprisingly, I'm giving it a strong 5 for acceleration. For low speed handling, I'm actually going to give it a 4. Because the handling has a decent amount of weight to it, and it's surprisingly restrained for such an infamous car. But the handling isn't quite as nimble at low speeds as some of the other rally cars and even WRC spec models. Overall, for city tracks though, I'm going to give this car a strong 5 because it is extremely quick and surprisingly easy to drive. So, a pretty good result on city tracks. Now let's see how it takes on a twisty country track. Now on twisty country tracks, obviously as we've said before, more of your top end performance and handling comes into play, and with all-wheel drive rally cars, you can never really tell what's going to be a good car or potentially not so good on a track like this. But as it turns out, the RS200 feels excellent on this track. The turn-in is very good, which is outstanding for an all-wheel drive car. Often they become heavier the faster you get, but with the RS200 that just doesn't happen. The handling stays loose and precise, and there is more than enough grip at all times. Now for top-end performance, it is definitely above your average WRC car, but not necessarily among the absolute quickest of rally cars top end. So for top end performance I'm giving it a 4, but for high speed handling I'm giving it a strong 5, and for twisty country tracks in general, well, again, it's a strong 5 because it feels very much at home here. So now let's see how it handles a dirt track. Now to be completely honest, I was kind of worried how the RS200 would turn out on a dirt track, because with all-wheel drive rally cars, especially older rally cars, and again especially with rally cars with alternate engine layouts such as this one has, being mid-engine, you can never really tell just how they're going to react to a track like this. Some turn out to be very good, others turn out to be heavy and just can't get the power down to the track, so you spend more time negotiating corners and end up having a surprisingly slow lap. That, however, does not happen with this car. It drives extremely well on dirt tracks. The drivability is excellent. I'm actually giving it a strong 5 for that, because surprisingly for what is, as we said earlier, a car that's really known for being challenging to drive in real life, it's actually not challenging to drive on the game at all. It's actually a very forgiving rally car. Now for rally tracks in general, I am going to give it again a strong 5 because it's very good to drive, it's very easy to drive compared to many of the other rally cars, and it will also give you a very quick lap, a sub 2-minute lap to be exact, so it is among the quickest of rally cars on this dirt track. One thing to note, however, is the high speed braking. Now at low speeds we said the brakes are a 4, but for high speed you do need to bear in mind that you do need to brake a little bit earlier with this car than you would in a more modern WRC car. But it's nothing that's difficult to drive, it's just something to bear in mind. So now let's see how it tackles a snow-based circuit. Now, as with dirt tracks, you can never really be overly certain how an all-wheel drive car, or any car, is going to react to a snow track. Some turn out to be excellent, some turn out to be too heavy, have too much understeer, and just not effective. This car is actually surprisingly good on this track. Now, I did not expect it to be that quick on a snow-based circuit. I expected it to have significant understeer and to just be not necessarily bad, but just not ideal for this track type. Now, it's certainly not the quickest, but it is a lot quicker than I expected. It is among certainly the top 10, if not higher, of rally cars in this series. So it is a very fast car. So for snow tracks, I am actually giving this car a strong 5 because it is very good for snow circuits. So overall, a very strong result for a car which in real life is known for being difficult to drive. So perhaps a surprising result to some people. But now let's go back to the garage finally for a roundup of its best and worst points. Overall then, the RS200 is no way near the monstrous machine that you would expect it to be on Gran Turismo. It's actually amazingly good to drive, surprisingly forgiving, and has a great advantage in that it is perfectly proportioned. It's low enough to have a great centre of gravity, but high enough so that it's not flipping over when driving over curbs. It's wide enough to be stable, long enough to have a great counterbalance, but not so big that it's difficult or awkward to drive around tight circuits. It's got the perfect amount of power, feels perfectly balanced, and it is definitely one of the best all-round rally cars in the game. Now, it is an expensive car. It's 1.45 million, as many of the older rally cars tend to be around that kind of price. But I would say it is worth that money, because not only does it have the nostalgic factor that many of the other older cars do, but the difference with this car is it's actually fast enough to back up that nostalgia. It's not a period piece. It's not the kind of car that's only competitive in its day. It is still competitive against even the newest rally cars on the game. And overall, as a tabulation of all of its scores put together, it scores an extremely respectable 4.7 out of 5, which is one of the highest ratings of this series so far. As far as its best and worst points, well, its best point is what I already said, really. It's just got everything you could possibly want from a rally car. It's got the look, the performance, the professional appeal, but also the beginner's forgivingness of the handling. It's just perfect, really. As far as its downside, well, none of its downsides really hinder it that much, but I'd say its primary downside would just be its high-speed braking, which I did allude to on our dirt track. You do need to bear in mind that you do need to brake a little bit earlier than in some other rally cars, simply because of how fast you'll be going when entering high-speed corners. So you do need to brake a little bit earlier than you would usually need to. But that's not strictly speaking a downside, it's just an indicator of how ballistically fast this car is, and it really is fast. So, overall, it's a great car. And as always, I'll put this car's specs, ratings and lap times in the video description for you to compare it to the other rally cars of the series if you need to. And that's it for this episode, so I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.